And with that, we will move on, switch our attentions over to Tier 2 rugby, where there was more test footy happening at the weekend in the Rugby Europe Championship. We were treated to a couple of nice games there.
They were so good.
Two different kinds of games, but a couple of good ones. Yeah, it started off with Portugal and Spain in the Iberian derby that it is. And yeah, what a humdinger it was, and ended 43-28 in favour of Los Lobos. Portugal getting the win.
I think it's Os Lobos. I realised the difference in Portuguese. I've been calling them Los Lobos as well. Os Lobos. The Lobos. The Wolves, in fact. But they're that was 43-28 was the result.
Yeah.
What a spectacular performance from Portugal.
Against a team that had been their bogey team, that do have a bit of a big brother mentality over them sometimes. But my God, they just strung together some great sequences and scored some great tries. And it's pretty undeniable now. They are the team. It was Spain pre-tournament and going in talking about playing like Japan and all this, but it's Portugal who are the ones putting it into practice.
I think it was telling that Spain rocked up and tried to win a forward battle, and early doors succeeded in that. Like, they got their rolling maul going. I think Marques got sin bin.
He did for sacking a maul.
Yeah, they were painting their picture, and their picture was kind of like being, if like with the yellow jerseys, they looked Romania-esque. They were trying to be forward oriented. They did score a nice try to make it 19-7. But outside of that, it was very much a one-dimensional style of play, and they were not the more quick. They were not the quicker. They were not the more offensive-minded. They were not the wider team. They weren't the slicker team. And Portugal were, and I think it's to their immense credit, after going behind early doors, to come back and just put in stellar score after stellar score. I mean, both wingers on the board, Storti and Marta.
Yeah.
And then the performance from 9, 10 and 15, Marques, Portela and Susagides at 15.
Oh, fantastically flowy footballers.
Yeah,
they really do run that offense in a lovely, lovely way. They're a delight to watch. All of them very, like, I think Marques is 32, but he's probably my player of the tournament so far.
100%.
What a find. But the other guys are very young as well, and they are exciting.
And they're just quick. They play with offensive tempo and freedom, and they move teams about and they tire them. And look, they were tired themselves against Romania. They were helped in the fact that Spain gave away a red card and again went down to 13 men. But this time they were properly punished. Like last time, they got a losing bonus point against Romania. Portugal are the best, apart from maybe Georgia, of course, but they're the best team of the rest at punishing teams for that. They went down
numbers.
To 13.
They play a distinctly numbers-based game. They try and overload defenders and fix and give. And if you're going to be down to 13 against them, they're just going to attack you. They're going to run you ragged.
Offense. Like they do throw those lovely inside balls. Both you blindside wingers get involved constantly, and then obviously from fullback Susagides really stepped up and was just everywhere on the counter attack. His footwork is phenomenal. His passing game is excellent. He just created a try. And they're the team in this competition that find tries from nowhere. And they're brilliant.
They're probably the best to watch because they get into proper scraps and they're not perfect. Their tight five can go walk about, particularly in second quarters, and they do struggle with the physicality, and like they struggled a little with Spain's kind of ugly style a bit. They couldn't repel them all legally. They're not the finished article, but they are definitely heading somewhere. And with that result, a bonus point win, or not, was it not quite a bonus point?
It wasn't, because they're using this 3-try rule like the Top Couture does, where you have to win by 3 tries to get a try bonus,
which is wrong for this tournament. I would think. I think they should just be incentivizing tries throughout. There should be bonus points for 4 tries regardless. It would
be an adequate punishment for how a lot of these teams have played in times gone by, where they're just a little more forward oriented and sluggish. I think that every incentive to score tries should be added. So it's a shame that Portugal don't get.
They racked up 43 points and didn't get an extra point for it, but they do put themselves thoroughly back into the mid-table mix, and with another season to play as far as World Cup contention goes, they're still vying for that spot, and I have a lot of faith in them after that showing and just what they're doing with the ball.
I mean, they struggle up front, and they're gonna struggle up front, but just the fact that their solution is so, like Japan, is just to keep moving teams about, and I think they're only going to get better. But I love the brand they're playing. I love the style of them. I rate the skill set of their backline very, very highly. I also want to give a shout out to the mustachioed replacement loosehead Francisco Fernandez.
Who made a seismic difference coming on, making plays in the loose, and also the scrum turnaround in the second half was very impressive. Because their starting tight head had been drawing my attention as just a guy who just looked like a dad bod out there, and he's running around getting raggedy.
The loosehead in particular, the guy who started at loosehead was just like a fat guy. No disrespect, but like he just was. Like I've been there, buddy. It's like it put like Jesus out there with these guys who want to play in World Cups. It was looking a little rough, and likewise the tight head. They're very much, as you say, harken back to like early 90s and the amateur era in terms of their prop forwards. They're just getting guys who are as big as possible to lock down the scrum as best as possible.
They try to and just get mushed a lot of the time.
Certainly, like if you think about going to a World Cup and facing a Springbok team, you know, that's obviously a brutal matchup for any of these guys. But Francisco Fernandez, who is 35 years old, gets a try on the board, but also just comes in and solidifies things and looks to be a proper prop. They'll need to find a few more of them between now and World Cup time. But I think I'm rooting for them. I really
they're
like
my
them.
favourite looking team in this tournament so far. Spain, by contrast, I'm not rooting for them.
They make it hard.
They make it hard. I do like Spain, and I like Spanish rugby. You kind of root for, and Los Leones and all that. But like, I just keep watching them give away egregious yellow cards and red cards and play a pretty ugly brand, and when they do try and pass it, they're not very good at it, and then they always kind of try and call a victim as well, like, oh, it's unfair, but it's like, it's not unfair, you just keep infringing horribly, like you're just sorted out, and maybe it's the coaching or something in the dressing room, but the culture doesn't seem right at the moment.
They were talking themselves up like they were going to play the high tempo and follow the Japanese model, and in this game they did not want any bit of going toe to toe with the Portuguese offense. They didn't want it. They wanted to play sluggish. They wanted to play forward oriented,
because they weren't going to win if they did get into shooting.
They didn't win anyway.
No, they didn't either. So they're 0-3 now, and really World Cup qualification looks a distant sight for Spanish rugby fans at the moment.
It's not out of the question. No. They do need to fix things. They do still have some talent. Ordaz is a good operator at 10, and he helps them a lot, and I think he did a good job scoring that try that should have been a try bonus point try in a losing effort, and they did still score 4 tries. They do still have some offensive chops, and they have a more competitive pack, which is huge.
And both of these sides kick very well. The kicking game of both of them is very, very good, because they're a nation of footballers. Like, they can all to a man kick the ball very far and very well.
Indeed, and that did help them. So I'm not writing them off. The game against Russia, for both of these sides, the games against Russia post whenever they are in July, after this little break this tournament's going on, those are going to be massive
they're must win for both, and for Russia as well. So it's proper competitive. And then the other fixture, which was pretty awesome, I thought. The absolute classico of it, Georgia and Romania out in Tbilisi. It finished Georgia 28, Romania 17, but that wasn't the story of the game, because Georgia picked up quite an early red card in the first
20
half,
minutes
20 minutes in, and we're playing the rest of the game with 14 men, and it was a one-score game for periods of that, and it was a proper scrap. Romania fired some shots. They got that lovely maul try, very dynamic maul try off a sequence of really good play in the second half, but on balance Georgia really looked brilliant at times in terms of how they managed that.
I was constantly impressed with Georgia in this one. They started the game excellently. They were controlling the play. They were kicking well through Tato, and they found themselves dominating the scrum. And I think Mamukashvili, who gets the red card, he's a guy I've had issues with, because I cited him as a problem. I don't think his line out darts are great. I don't think he offers enough in the loose.
And now here he is getting red card.
Yeah, but what he seems to give them is, especially with the young props, is a really good scrum. And they were like, it was classic Georgian stuff at the start of that game, where like set forward, and then ball comes in, you know, and that was it. And they tortured, like the referee was almost being obtuse, not giving up penalty tries. Like Romania wanted him to give a penalty try, because he just kept giving Georgia penalties, and then he yellow carded a Romanian prop, and then they reset it again, another one, just a penalty, and it's like Romania's just like, come on, we can't do this, just give them let us get up the pitch, and eventually he does, and Georgia took a convincing 10-0 lead, and then Mamukashvili, and it was to be fair, like, it was a deserved red card. He came in with a swinging arm on the Romanian fullback, who has been having a great tournament, Milinta, and it was after Milinta made like a really good play, like where he's under a high ball and he catches it and he keeps his 2 feet in bounds and twinkle toes down the sideline, beats one defender, and is about to run into open space, and Mamukashvili does this desperation swinging arm and catches him right in the head, and drops him and takes him out of the game, which is unfortunate. So he deservedly takes a red for that. And then, you know, Romania actually get some ins in the game, and it's
including the scrum.
Yeah,
to your point there, like when he came off, they had to switch it up, but the scrum started going backwards then for Georgia, which was an unusual sight.
And they took a back rower off, which was an interesting decision, but one that was vindicated as the game went on.
It's just the work rate of Jalagonia and Sarkadze that really Saganadze even that allowed them to do that, because those boys were everywhere in all the pivotal sequences, and then throughout the game as well. They were just all over the place.
Like they faded a little after the red, and Romania did get back in it. But I thought that the performance to dig it out of the fire in the second half was absolutely brilliant.
It was, yeah.
The try they scored in the extremities with Saganadze bursting through, and the great pass. It was trying to find the name of the guy who scored it. Gigishvili got it in the end, the loose head. But it was like the first Kamaladze making a great pass off his left, which he gets credit for, and then the fixing it. Kvesaladze at 13 had his best game of the whole tournament.
He looked dynamic, rangy, kind of asking good probing questions with ball in hand, and then sitting people down when the ball was going out wider than him, as well as his dummy lines or his options were very good.
I mean, they were down to 14 and they were still throwing the ball around. Got it done in the extremities, and you have to give the ultimate shout out to the scrum half Aprasidze,
who was being bullied the whole day.
He was. The Romanians were ripping his scrum cap off. Twice I saw them in rucks rip his scrum cap off.
And he ended up finishing the game without wearing the scrum cap, because he's probably sick of all that.
They were bullying him, and there was one sequence towards the end of the first half where there was a Georgian ruck, and I was like, where's Aprasidze? There was no scrum half there. And then on the replay they revealed what happened was, after he threw his pass at the last ruck, a Romanian tackled him, lay on him, and held him down there for ages. And that was where he was. And it was just like, they were constantly harrying him. And then he gets the last laugh with the quick tap penalty to put Tbilisi in.
Beautiful try. And when Tato was forced off, when he kicked a lovely kick and cramped up instantly and fell down on the spot of the kick, and you thought, oh no, because the game was still in the balance at that point, and Tato had been playing really well and was like a difference maker between these two sides, and you started to get the feeling that Georgia were going to navigate it, but then he goes down and goes off, and you're like, oh no,
this could be curtains.
But then it wasn't, and it was because Aprasidze was so good from 9, assured, bossed the offense very nicely, made sure they could play keep ball, a very dynamic style of keep ball that isn't just one out runners. It was hitting guys, hitting the ball really hard when they're running tight, and using the outside options. And even the guy who came on for Tato, I'm not sure what his name is, the substitute 10.
Oh no, Kamaladze I think moved into 10, didn't he? Didn't he? I think that's what happened. They brought on Soso, or am I wrong about that?
I thought it was another young lad.
Oh, it was Babunashvili,
and he kicked a lovely drop goal at the very end.
That's right, actually. Yes. That was a lovely, audacious play. I loved that. That was kind of rubbing salt in the wounds, but it was great. I think Romania were roughing them up the whole game, and there was very much a flexing your muscles style performance from the Georgians, and I really enjoyed it for that reason. As I suspected going into this game, the underrated aspect of their game, their defense, is kind of what won it for them. That Jalagonia has been a difference maker in terms of giving them pace off the line.
Yes,
he's leading the defence really well, and like 3 or 4
he looks a little like Josh van der Fleer out there, just flying up out of line.
On 3 or 4 occasions, he caught the Romanians, who were like having this like similar forward pod to most teams, except it's way slower. And the guy was receiving the ball off a slow pass, and then was like turning and caught by Jalagonia, and that was it. Like that, 3 or 4 times.
Slow motion by comparison to the absolute turbo physical guy as well. Like he sticks his tackles too. He was mighty impressive and has been all tournament long. And with it, it sets up the almost certain Grand Slam now, and it puts them in pole position to try and take the Europe 1 spot into the next World Cup, which was what they were favoured to do.
And more's the point there. They've expanded their game. I think huge credit needs to be given to Levan Maisashvili, who's the defence coach in 2019, who I was having doubts about, because I was like, your defence in 2019 was porous and not good, especially when you consider your physicality. Your defence is way too soft. And so he gets the head coach job by default because they can't get anyone, and it's a long-term interim role seemingly. And I think like they could stall here, but he has correctly identified, along with sort of just collectively as the union, that they need to expand their game. Their defense has improved, their offense has improved, they've kicking
their
game
handling,
improved.
their speed. They have more speed out wide now with a few new lads, and like Mininiashvili finding his way into the team.
They're a lot better than they were a couple of years ago.
They really are, and like their performance that they're mining for, they're showing in Dublin against Ireland, where they were only 12 points adrift, and they were very combative, and now they know what they need to work on. They know what their level is at.
And Becca Gergadze is going to come back into this team.
I know, right? That's pretty awesome. Like Yeah, no, they are mighty in this competition, but they're growing a lot more than a lot of other teams at the
very
moment.
impressed. Very impressed with what Georgia are doing, and it was a great win for them.
Yeah.
From Romania's point of view, there were bits of what they did were nice, but probably they were too few and far between overall.
They were. The second half sequence that they grabbed their eventual maul try from, but the foray, the breakout that they did from their own half, where they did move it left and right. I think twice they used the width of the field and managed to get all the way into the red zone, and then ultimately milk a few penalties and get over through a very dynamic and technical maul. That was their best patch of play, and it was a window of like, if they can keep doing that, they will run. The Georgians will tire, and there'll be scores for them, but they didn't, and they weren't allowed to. Their halfbacks, as much as like their 10 is a good player, they were outplayed by the Georgian counterparts. For the most part, their kicking game wasn't where it needed to be. Their passing game wasn't where it needed to be.
Their maul was the best matchup they had, and their maul is lovely. The transition from inside to outside in terms of the way they pivot to the open side was catching the Georgians pretty much every time.
Yes, it was.
And that was definitely their best matchup. And their maul does look well drilled, but by and large, they didn't play a fast enough brand to make the extra man count, and that was an adjustment that they should have made after not playing a fast enough brand to make the extra man count the week before against Spain.
Yeah,
they needed Spain to go down to 12 men to make it count last week, and they only did so to the tune of one try.
Yeah, so that's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a problem. Yeah,
they had an extra man for a very long time, and they didn't make it tell. They're a class beneath Georgia, and a good opportunity to beat them, or to at least get a losing bonus point kind of passes them by.
Indeed, you'll never have a better chance to win in Tbilisi than that 20 minutes in and a red card to Georgia. But they didn't, and they were a level below, and all the teams are a level below, and it's the toughest fixture out of the way, but it is disappointing for them to not get anything out of it. However, they do still sit second in the table. Just looking at the table as it stands, obviously Georgia light years in front on 18 points, Romania in second on 9. So
having played 4 games. Having played 4 games.
Both of those.
Georgia and Romania have both played 4. Portugal are behind Romania on 5 points, but they've only played 3 games.
Yes.
Russia won back on 4 points, but they've only played twice.
Yeah.
They have Portugal, Spain, and the qualifier to play. Everyone has the qualifier to play.
Yeah.
And then Spain, obviously 0-3, but still 2 points on the board.
Yes.
Only right in the mix, I would say. They've played 3 games. If they beat Russia, I would think we're giving everyone wins over the qualifier, although they are a wild card.
They are. Maybe
Belgium
the Netherlands come in and light it up.
Exactly. You don't know at this level what could happen, but if Spain can get wins over Russia and the qualifier, they're going to be right in the mix going into next year. So I think that Europe 2 spot is looking like so hotly contested.
There's so many
the
teams
most in years
there. 100%. They're a very dynamic shuffle. The Europe 1 spot is looking pretty much sewn up by the Georgians, as you could have predicted going into the tournament. And then just in terms of that playoff that you were alluding to between Belgium or the Netherlands, has had a date set for it. It's going to take place on the 29th of May at 2 p.m. in Belgium. The venue is actually to be confirmed, but it's a big game for both of those teams, and that'll decide ultimately who gets in, and then they'll have to rejig some of the scheduling to get it sorted. But as it is right now, the Rugby Europe Championship is taking a bit of a break in the middle of it.
The next, obviously that playoff game will be in May, and then the next set of fixtures will be in July.
Yeah,
which is it's a tedious thing from the outside looking in. Obviously, you want your tournaments to be condensed into a period. But in this Tier 2 context, especially with COVID and everything else delaying it a little bit, it makes all the sense in the world. And I love it not being played in a test window. I think, or it being played in a test window, being played not clashing with club footy, just so all the teams can get their players, because that's fair.
It is fair and proper. And then in the context of this tournament, it is both the Rugby Europe Championship for 2021, but it is also, as we've been billing it, the World Cup qualifiers, and it's coupled with next year's Rugby Europe Championship. So with that,
it's a marathon.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
This is the first
section. It makes sense with it being world rankings related for continuous assessment to be factored into it. It's not just who's in form for a month and they win.
That's a good point.
Goes throughout the next couple of years, and then whoever's the more
whoever
deserving
ends up top of that dog pile beneath Georgia is going to deserve it.
Yes,
I think at the end of all this, ineligible players notwithstanding.
All that, yes. Here's hoping that Marques is eligible for Portugal.
Can you imagine? Turns out he was French.
He's Egyptian or whatever. I don't know.
No, we're hoping not to see any more ineligible players, and it's been a right dust up, and I'm looking forward to its return. In July. But very much the theme of the weekend is congratulations to Portugal on a sensational win, and mainly congratulations to Georgia on a dominant victory in the face of adversity, expanding your game and de facto claiming the Grand Slam. That's awesome. And I'm excited about Georgian rugby going forward.
Absolutely, likewise. And Portuguese rugby. And, there's excitement afoot in this competition, no doubt.
100%.
With that, we will move on. Thank you very much for watching that video. If you're new here, please do like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified when we upload again. But mainly, please drop a comment down below. We enjoy hearing your thoughts on it. Thanks.